She's unavoidably absent for this session. So we have our speaker here, our guest speaker, 𝐒𝐿𝐽 is right here ready to kick off. If you are in the chat, please drop in the chat where you are joining us from. Thank you for joining us. Lee, are you there? Our people are ready for you. Okay, Lagos, great. We have Jos, Lagos, great. Good afternoon, you're welcome from Lagos. Okay, Lagos people are winning. Abuja, great, great. So Lee, people are just mentioning different states in Lagos and in Nigeria they're joining us from. That's what's happening in the charts now.
Awesome. Let me know when I can dive into the detail. Just for everybody who's listening, I'm speaking to you from Cape Town in South Africa today.
Yeah, Lee is joining us from Cape Town, South Africa. Abuja, Port Harcourt. Great, great, great. Nice to have you all here. Thank you for joining us. And we will just kick off. I know people are still joining in. We have a lot of registrations and people will join as we move on. So Lee, over to you. I know Lee would introduce himself and tell us more about what he wants to discuss. Thank you. Good. Sit back and enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Okay, so I do have a little presentation which I'll share in a moment, but I think just by way of introduction, my name's Lee. I work as the head of people operations here at 𝐭𝐻𝐧𝐝𝐲 systems. 𝐭𝐻𝐧𝐝𝐲 is a technology company, and we provide technology solutions and applications to the investment management arena in order for them to gain greater data insight and reporting capability worldwide. We do this through easy to use, pain-free tools. And essentially, we're a product-led engineering team. We've got about 190 employees across the globe, and we've got 4 main hubs, that being the United Kingdom, the USA, South Africa, and Luxembourg. So I'm going to share my screen now and take you through almost a bit of a case study, if you like, on AI, machine learning, and why we choose to use it as part of our people operations function. For greater context, the team that I have is only 5 people. And when you're dealing with cross-border collaboration, as well as trying to deliver the best possible employment experience you can, you'd need, many more people than that in order to acquiesce every request of each individual employee. So when having a look at this, and we started looking at it in September 2021, we decided we probably need some help with it. Now, whilst we have the ability to actively roll out applications, machine learning, and automation, we knew that we needed experts in this space. And so we partnered with a company called Winning Temp, which is a Swedish-based startup, and they were able to assist us in some of the things that we wanted to test. So what did we want to test, right? Well, if you consider the entire employment lifecycle from attraction to recruitment to onboarding, then you've got personal professional development, you've got retention, you've got payroll, you've got separation, and then there's alumni. That's a huge, huge portfolio. And I think it's very undervalued and has been traditionally at the amount of work and amount of ownership, accountability, and responsibility that HR professionals have to play as part of being this hinge between, let's call it, the people and the organization. So we had quite a high attrition when I first started. The back of COVID didn't help things. This remote working, hybrid working, this is never going to change. It's here forever. And so we needed to understand how we could best optimize that entire portfolio so that the employee experience would be one in which would be iterative and almost as a real-time reporting. Too many companies leave what we call the employment experience to hindsight. So that's what we decided. We can no longer afford to leave the employee experience to hindsight. The reality is a lot of the data that you would collect would come from the single source of truth, so payroll, right? And you might have an HRMS system which allows you dashboard views on basic analytics like average age, average locations or demographics, different types of LSMs. You could probably break that down by team. And in this way, at least you know what your audience is. For example, here at 𝐭𝐻𝐧𝐝𝐲, our average age is 35 years and 9 months. So we immediately know that we don't have freshers entering the business. And so they should already have had scenarios in which they've succeeded, and remained humble in that, or failed and managed to pick themselves up and move forward. So we needed to provide a more mature solution. And the only information we had other than the HRMS and other than payroll would be your exit interviews. And exit interviews, whilst that's great, is very difficult to validate that data because it's after the fact. So typically speaking, the type of data you would get there, it would be things like personal professional development wasn't great, my salary was junk, my manager was worse, but all the people I worked with were fantastic. So when I look at that data, I think to myself, well, this simply can't be. And how do we put ourselves in a situation where we understand in good enough time that we can perform an intervention or a nudge for overall behavioral change? Cool. So we had a look at a couple of things. Leadership. We wanted to test job satisfaction. We wanted to test work situation. We wanted to test things like cross-team collaboration. We wanted to test psychological safety. We wanted to be able to survey, if you like, in a very non-intrusive way, easy, quick, modern, contemporary way, in order to glean and gain this information, and then further enrich this by putting in some models and some parameters and thresholds. So I had a quick conversation with one of the main AI data scientists within the partnership that we have at Winning Temp, and they were able to sort of give me a little bit more information, which I can share with you today. Look, the reality is I'm an HR professional. I've been doing this for 12 years. I'm not a data scientist. At best, I can maybe copy a bit of HTML5 code and stick it into the back of a content management system. So if you've got any sort of deep questions like that, we could always get them answered, but I may not be able to do that today. So kurtosis's relationship with HR and AI. So understanding this data, we can categorize AI as either general AI or narrow AI. And general AI is a machine capable of learning to solve any number of problems without human input. And it would be able to adapt its thinking and evolve almost on its own. Now, on the other side, you've got a thing called narrow AI, which is more widely used. And this is the type of artificial intelligence we would use. We've got several of these little machines within the platform in which the survey comes out from, which is helping us intelligently predict workforce behavior. So we've got several machines, and they are all deployed within this product. And they lean specifically towards predictions of turnover and sickness. The machine is constantly learning, and so we will eventually have more predictors. But for now, that turnover was, for us, quite a hot topic. We wanted to understand how we could reduce our attrition, increase our net headcount growth, and then provide an index, or like a temperature, as it were, of the employment experience across these different dashboards or different testing phases, and then be able to track it. So once you've got the index, you can then monitor the progress and its performance. So this AI is capable of mimicking human behavior to resolve problems in ways that are considered smart. And it can resolve problems in smart ways by using common statistical combinations with these predefined rules. So an example here is if you think of, let's say, an accuracy score, and it's given data and some predefined statistical parameters, and you give it, let's say, a confidence level of 95% to be validated, it will then calculate other statistical parameters, such as confidence interval. And if that calculated parameter is below that threshold that we've set, then you can be confident that not much is going to change. So when collecting information, it's really important that this machine can also work out who's kind of gaming the system. A more, let's call it, complex subset of AI within the product that we use are machines capable of learning, so hence the name machine learning. And these machines, they identify patterns in data, past human behavior, they monitor trends, and they allow you to make actions, and they give you hints and tips on how to nudge for behavioral change. So they're very good at predicting. They're very good at predicting employee turnover, and I'll show you some examples of that in a minute. And the cool thing about this stuff is they're actually getting better, right? So the versions we've got are now maybe, I don't know, 18 months old. And if you continue to collect this data historically and in real time, it'll start to allow you to plot the graph forwards, and you can then plan for things like better L&D. You can plan for things like succession planning and KPIs. You can start to quite literally augment the way in which your employment experience is unraveled for each individual, so that you get a greater, quicker onboarding and possibly a longer tenure, but more importantly, a constant with reference to institutional knowledge, as it were. So there you go, narrow AI, kind of exciting. So strengths, a couple of the strengths. So there's a couple of things we want to test. We want to test against strengths. We want to test against weaknesses. And then we want the predictors. Now, as the slide suggests, strengths are insights into what is going well in the organization. And everybody loves these. You know, everybody's like, yeah, boy, we're so good at this. Look at our personal development. Look at our leadership. We are the boss. We are killing it. But that's only one side of the coin. And the beautiful thing about the predictions is, you may have heard this saying in the past, which is there are three sides to every story. You know, there's his, there's hers, and then the truth is somewhere in between, and that's what the predictor is. So these insight cards are generated based on the information which is inputted by our employees, and every Tuesday you'll get a set of 4 to 8 questions, depending on what we're looking to test. Sometimes you may get a question which has been reverse engineered, so it's testing to see if you felt like that still over the course of time, and then all this information gets inputted into these machines, and they start pressing out some of these insights for us. So if you just have a look at the top, maybe I'll use my cursor, you can see the strengths there. This dashboard also has improvements, and then the predictions. You always want to have more strengths than improvements. Nobody wants to be in that ship when it's sinking, but at least if you've got this tool and you're in that ship, you can actually turn it around. So we encourage people to bring these up in meetings to highlight the good progress and the strengths. It's nice to hear good news. I think people do well with good news. You can see it drills down even further. So what we've been testing against here is trust, participation, and ambassadorship. And it gives you each team and what they're experiencing. And we can see here plus 27% during the past month within trust, which is excellent. If you were to come up to this top tab here, the tips and actions, this is really where the tool starts to give you almost like management capability of humans based on the behavior it's tracking and trending that would best suit the scenarios that you're finding yourself in. And so even if you're like a brand spanking new manager of people, you can use these as tools within your toolbox to work with any situation. There's a saying by some philosopher somewhere where he said, if you see every problem as a nail, if you have only one tool, a hammer, you will see every problem as a nail. And this starts to just broaden your ability to attack these sorts of scenarios we're seeing. When you click on this, it gives you the idea and what the machine is telling you. So the temperature index has increased by 1.4 compared with the previous month based on 90 days. So we're tracking these over quarter by quarter. And at the end of every quarter, we ask what we call an ENPS question, which is your employee net promoter. And it basically says, would you recommend this organization to a family member or friend in order to work at? And obviously, if you're getting greens, good to go. If you're getting reds, scary. Okay, these are the stress areas. So these are improvement areas, and these cannot be avoided. You have to tackle these and push from red to green. The green bit, we're already doing great. We got to do some push-ups here and work on this stuff. So you can see here, we've got a little bit of scenario with work situation, autonomy, and self-leadership. And these insights are into some areas where work needs to be done in order to increase the temperature. And this is really, for me, where this AI really does start to take shape, because ultimately it's said to you, it's flagged to you, it's going, hey, heads up, we may have a scenario here, and we'll show you a predictor in a minute, but this is enough time for you to create an intervention for behavioral change. Go in there and find out what's going on. But if you don't know what to do because you've never been faced with it, the machine will give you some tips and hints, right? So these cards need to be brought up in meetings at one-to-ones. I'm quite brutal with my team. I just throw it into our big group and I go, right, guys, what do you want to see more of? What do you want to see less of? Come, let's get real. We want to move forward. We want to be better tomorrow than we were today. And we want to be better today than we were yesterday. So I think communication is key in order to manage those expectations so that there's not any unwanted. And there you go, it'll spits it out. And the beautiful thing about this is it talks about the negative trend. So it I look at these all the time, and these little things, you can see they've got a little drop down box and they start to give you even greater insight. So it's not just a 2-line bit of advice. And it really, really does help in managing your workforce and creating an employment experience, one in which the individuals in question can actually perform the best work of their lives. Good, the prediction bit. Now this is kind of the, not many HR people use this word, but this is kind of the sexy bit. This is the bit that we're here for, right? So how does this all happen? So essentially these are where you have collected all this information, you've been assessing the trends over time, and it's been learning based on the way individuals within the groups have been answering these surveys. The one thing I didn't state earlier is that the survey work is done under the cover of anonymity. Okay, so we do have to create parent groups and then sort of children groups in order to collect the information correctly, but we put a threshold on that. So if there's a team of, let's say, 4 people or less, their information will feed into the parent group, because then it's very easy to identify who the person is in a very small team, and we don't want that. Remember, we want candid, honest feedback, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So additional insights. This particular AI that we've got also takes into account data not being received from recipients of the surveys, as well as the historical survey responses based on the volumes that it's been engaged with. So I'm probably stating the obvious, but if you've got 100% engagement rate, you can validate the data, right? If you've got less, like 70%, you don't really know what that 30% is doing. And so an HR professional would know, okay, so I've got either a positively or negatively, but actively engaged employee. So I'm happy with good news, I'm happy with bad news. I can do something about those both. But if you're not getting any news, that basically means that they are completely disengaged and they've probably started quietly quitting already. So driving this into your workforce and making it almost a behavioral change is a big deal. And I can speak to you about that at the end through questions, how we did it, but we literally did it like a marketing campaign. Cool. This is our data up here, once again. And when I saw this for the first time, because this is our real data, I was like, hang on a minute, you're telling me there's 25 groups where employees are at risk of leaving. What? And so that breaks down further. And just based on the sensitivity of this info, I'm not going to break it down any further there, but it breaks down into different categories. And I'll show you the way that the categories work by way of the groups that we've created. So here we go. So this is the way the groups work, right? So the very top circle at the top there, that'll be kurtosis, the whole company, right? And then it breaks down per department through executive, technology, QA, client service delivery, people operations, finance, marketing, whatever. And they all feed into these areas. So whilst you can track individual responses, you never know who the individual is. You can know who the group is as long as it's of 5 people or more. And that way you are able to drill down into problematic areas within the business. If, say, for example, your entire technology team are super happy, right? But the product team isn't, well, you can't then treat them both the same way in terms of either, I don't know, intervention or reprimand or investigation. And so you are able to glean a little bit more detail as a result of that. 35 groups, I know it's small. We're only 190 people. So if you're in a larger organization, that would be amazing because you'd just be getting tons and tons of data. But I think we have to be a little bit more intimate simply based on the size of who we are. Cool. This is an EMPS score. So the machine's done a whole bunch of stuff for us, right? In terms of predicting turnover, predicting sickness, predicting happiness, dependent on the pillars we're testing. And then it gives you a score. It gives you a score based on an index. And in this instance, this index, which is 14, the number below the third, is benchmarked against similar companies to ours in a similar industry sector with a similar size, performing the same sort of functions, using these machines, really. And so you can tell we are winning. We've had an increase there of 2 basis points, so 23 over 14. Just in terms of the way an eNPS score works, if you're at 0, you're good. If you're plus 100, you're the best. If you're minus 100, time to start looking for a new job. So 0 is kind of the starting points. Negative and positive says what it says just based on those syllables. Cool. So I wanted to show you some of the impact that we had here by using this tool. We've been using this tool since February, the 15th of February, 2022. So we're more than a year using it now. And when I first ran this tool, you can see from January to April, so that's year on year, you could see we had quite a high attrition. We already had 13% turnover within just the first 4 months. Multiply that by 4 and you've got an idea of what was happening. Very scary. Like, how do you retain institutional knowledge? How do you onboard people quickly? Like, if they're client facing, what are you going to tell that client when they leave? If they work in support, like, you know, you're the most important person because you're touching our client first. So it was really, really important that we slowed that down a little bit. I do believe attrition, you should have some. For new, fresh ideas and diversity of thinking, but this is like filling a leaky bucket. But if you look at the same time frame 1 year later, it's radically reduced, and we're really, really happy with that result. And the reason we were able to do it was because based on all the information we were receiving back from the employees under the cover of anonymity, as well as the predictor tools that we were receiving through the AI and machine learning machines, we were able to put in either A, interventions, or B, initiatives that would assist people in enjoying the employment experience within their life cycle. And we implemented 20 things, everything from additional leave to lunchtime subsidies to learning subsidies. We brought in like a new talent LMS and a LinkedIn learning agreement, and we were listening. And I think for the first time ever, our employees had been seen, heard, and they started to feel like they belonged. And for me, the irony is that we've always had the ability to do this as humans, but we've always been quite subjective about it. And this data that you receive from machine learning and AI and this particular product that we're using or tool that we're using is objective. You know, it doesn't judge you because of the color of your shirt. You know, so in that way, it's very validated and super relevant. Okay, this has dropped off a little bit, which I'm not too pleased about. Last year we had a 91% engagement rate, and it's at 84 at the moment. But you know what? I can still live with that, because then you can still just do your own little maths on the side and go, okay, so what's 16% of 160? If the predictor's saying you're going to lose, let's call it 30 people, you know, it's probably a little less than that, right? So that's what that is. Some wins, 10% reduction in attrition. That's a huge round of applause. It's wonderful. I really, really enjoy that. We also had a couple of other cool things happen, like our eNPS score increased. So from +9 all the way to 23. That's a real indicator of your employees telling you, hey guys, you're getting this right, man. And we appreciate you, which is positive for everyone. Year on year engagement, okay, 84%. It has been higher. And don't worry, I'll be sorting that out after this webinar. And finally, oh yes, I'm going to leave you with a quote now and then be open to questions. And finally, I love this quote. It is a quote for all who advocate for positive change. So the wind in our sail is more powerful than the current of the stream. Sometimes you might find yourself in a scenario where it's not ideal, but if you've got some energy and you've got some innovative thought, and by innovative, I mean an idea in which you can lift whatever that existing limitation is, you can then create new business rules. And I genuinely feel that through the use of AI in a strategic way and as a tool, a partner to the employee and the human experience, I think you can do some really great things. And that's the end of my prezo.
Thank you so much for that, Lee. We appreciate that insightful presentation. Thank you everyone for joining us. I know some of us joined while Lee started this presentation. I would like to apologize. Dora 𝐒𝐭𝐚𝐲 is unavoidably absent from this session. So sincere apologies that she's not here. But Lee has put forward quite some insightful sessions. Lee, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What are the ethical issues or challenges surrounding the use of AI by HR professionals?
So I think from our perspective, it was very important that we communicated the intention here, right? And then you do need consent. You know, you can't just go and take people's information. People don't have to answer if they don't want to. And so the way they engage with the tool is based on the level that they feel comfortable with. I think there could be ethical issues, you know, if you're considering what technology can do and you're unaware of doing it. An example, a bad example, but an example is you click onto a website, right? And then you go to a social media platform, and then all of a sudden you've got the advert from that website on your platform, and it's because it's following you, it's tracking you. Now, that's not the intention with narrow AI, right? And general AI, it's like those bots that can speak to you. You know what I mean? Where you go, oh, hi, how are you? And they go, yeah, I'm great, how are you? So I wouldn't use that for HR. I would use the narrow AI in order to avoid the ethical debates on the basis that I'm going to utilize the tool like a GPS, and it's going to give me some guidance as to what actions we need to perform next. But it's a very valid question, and I'm scared to answer it because I'm absolutely certain that it can be used in a not such a great way.
Okay. So what strategies can we use to combat the use in not such a great way?
I think you have to put some parameters on its capability, and then you need to use it in the right meaningful way. So the way we rolled out Winning Temp, and in order to alleviate any fear or anxiety in using the tool and actively promote confidence that this is, you know, for the greater good of us all, is as we completely explained this, and we ran this little campaign where we actively informed everybody and educated them as to what this thing does, the reasons why we're wanting to do it. And overall, as a technology company, I found it a little easier to do. It may be different if you're in mining or manufacturing, because we kind of understand that this is the way the world is going. And so if we're going to be using things like ChatGPT to create some content, you know, maybe we can use a survey platform with some narrow AI built into it in order to really, really enrich the experience and to have a voice where maybe you would be slightly concerned to raise that voice. I think also just being able to explain that it's about objective data as opposed to any subjective matters means then that you could also test on subjective issues, right? So you can use this tool to alleviate or to sort of segue past the ethical question by testing on things like diversity, equity, and inclusion, for example, or sustainability, for example, you know, and then that way you're using this tool in a more positive way and you're alleviating that anxiety.
Okay. All right. Before I go on with my other question, I think we have someone asking a question here. So the first question, can you recommend some of these free AI tools for data analytics? Someone is asking.
That's a really good question. I can't. I can only recommend the paid versions of it because those are the ones I'm more familiar with. But there's a couple of them. Like if you have a look at specifically employee-based AI type machine learning tools, you've got like 𝐒𝐭𝐚, Office Vibe, Winning Temp, and there's a plethora of them coming out now. I think this seems to be all the rage and all the buzz. And then if you consider, you know, companies like LinkedIn, they use a thing called Glint, which is very, very expensive, and they've been doing this for some time. Google since 2007 has been collecting data, but they build their own machine learning capability in order to, you know, better their employment experience. I think just run a little search. It's not probably the answer you wanted, but for me, I would use the two best ones for me are 𝐶on and winning temp, basically.
Okay. Thank you. So the other question we have is, please share examples of narrow AI tools.
Of narrow AI tools?
Yes.
You're going to need to elaborate.
Okay, so Nanya, do you want to elaborate on your question?
I can tell you how ours work, and maybe that'll answer the question.
Okay, please.
So what happens is we set some parameters to validate the tool, right? So there's some benchmarks and then there's some thresholds, and it's basic statistical modeling. When I say basic, I can't do it, right? But a data scientist can. Okay, and then what happens is you pass the information through this machine, and based on that statistical data, which it's now tracking trends, so it's plotting the graph backwards, it can then start to use that information based on trend and volume. It can then decide, on a balance of probability, the likelihood of an event occurring or a turnover occurring, and that way, because it's got one function, it's just got that one function, it's particularly good at it. It's better than a human at it. In the same way that, like, I've got two boys, two sons. My eldest, he draws, man. He draws all the time. Like, he just draws all the time, all sorts of things. Wherever he is, he's just drawing. And you look at his drawings versus my drawings, and his are superior in every way, shape, and form. So what's important to know about this narrow AI is the way that the model has been created is it's to perform a single function optimally, and we've got about 3 or 4 of them within the product.
Makes sense. I think she backed it up with, is there a particular name for the narrow AI tools, or is it generic?
Sorry, say that again.
That is there a particular name for the narrow AI tools, or is it generic?
I don't know the answer to that.
Maybe because the question is not so, maybe we can bump her up to panel session to ask a question live if she wants to. I have another question for you. I know someone is raising a hand. Tutu is raising a hand. If you want to speak, we could bump you up to a panelist to speak. Will AI ultimately result in employee displacement or dehumanization of HR?
I can't speak for employee displacement. I think some functions will suffer, yes. So if you consider, let's say, anybody who's very good at, like, these actuarial scientists, right? So you've got an actuary, and they go to school and they study and they're excellent at maths. I think they could potentially be in jeopardy as a result of these AI being able to perform those functions for them. So you create the model, the statistical model, and you unleash the AI on it, and there you go. The machine learns. But I think when it comes to HR and human connection, I hope, should I say, it will be used simply as a tool, an additional weapon, if you like, that we've got in order to provide the best employment experience possible. I mean, I've already seen it starting to be used in things like attraction, recruitment, and onboarding. And at a very basic level, you've got these applicant tracking systems that if the certain keywords are not within, or phrases or experiences are not within your CV, they automatically auto-reject you. And in the same way, that when these little scrapers or crawlers start looking for individuals in a database, or if they're allowed to be on a website, an open forum, they can identify individuals that would be best suited for the role. And so I think it's definitely going to have a big part to play. But I don't have a crystal ball, and so I'm hesitant to say something and then kind of be foolish about it,
I get you, Lee. I get you. Thank you for that. I understand. So we have another question. How do you manage the data fed into the system, bearing in mind that biases can also come in through the process?
Repeat it one more time for me. I just want to make sure I get it right.
Okay, how do you manage the data fed into the system? Bearing in mind that biases can also come in through this process.
Yes, great question. I can't believe I didn't touch on that stunning question. So basically the types of questions that we get put into the system in order for them to be answered come from a lot of research that has been conducted from some top universities around psychology and psychological thinking. And then the reverse engineering of that, whilst it can be done manually, very unsuccessfully, might I add, will also be done by the machine. So we've had a few scenarios actually where an individual has responded on the question, gone, I don't understand what this question means. You know, is it supposed to be a green face or a red face? Like, I'm super confused. And then we look at the question and we realize that there wasn't a binary answer to that question. It was very general and it almost needed like a suggestion box. And so there is a suggestion box being built in to the product, I believe, as we speak. So that'll assist us there. But that set of questions, whilst you can create your own custom surveys to test on specific things, it's never really quite as enriched as what the generated questions feedback is. And we got that a lot of those questions out of, I think it was Nuremberg's university. I'll confirm with you after and we can share it. But it was, I think it was a German university that we got that information out of.
Okay. Thank you for that, Lee. Someone is raising their hand. I want to give them to speak. Let's see if the person wants to speak. Tutu, are you there? Do you want to speak? Okay, she's not here. So I have a question here from Alexandra. What are the greatest opportunities of AI to HR processes and professionals?
Yeah, great. You can optimize everything. Like I said earlier, we've only got 5 people here. And to provide an experience in a way that would gleam great, like world-class customer service, right? It can really assist you with this. So what we've done, just using technology and not necessarily AI, is we've automated our entire process from the ATS through payroll and separation. We've even now got an alumni piece as well. And there's a number of things that it helps with. So information security, right? Minimal manual human intervention creates less risk. Audit trail, like there's no missed paperwork or unsigned document because everything's digital. It allows us to move quicker. So there's got a bit of velocity or there's like a bit of a vector to it. And typically speaking, it's because of those optimizations, you can it saves a lot of money. So you're no longer just a cost center, right? But you're saving money and ultimately improving efficiency. And then that way, through economies of scale, you can use that money in another area.
Saves time, saves money.
Yeah.
Point. What are the threats? What are the threats?
The threats. Yeah, the threats they're pretty obvious, but they're also unknown. I mean, we've all seen that film Terminator, right? Scary, that stuff. I think if you don't have like a backup, so we run a system and then we've got another backup where we can store this information, and one of that goes down, but you don't have the backup, it's lost, it's all gone forever. And so all that hard work's rubbish. I mean, sometimes you should and will have the ability to recover, but I think you could be held to ransom if you're clicking bad links. There's a number of threats on the basis that it's invisible. You know, it's ether. It's not tangible. You can't touch it. I think if people learn how to game the system, that could be quite a threat. But you would start to be able to pick that up within the trends.
Okay. Another question here. Is this just a trend in the interim, or is this the future of HR? The future we have been shouting about. Is this the future of HR? Is it the now of HR?
That's a great question. Is this just a trend? I don't know. I don't think it's a trend. I think if you consider the history of HR, and I did a little paper on this, but I tracked it back to like 1901. You can track it much further to the times of the Babylonian stones, where in the stones they've carved sort of rules around slavery and medical pensions and things like this. If you fast forward all the way, let's say to 2007, where you've now got Google actively collecting their people data in order to understand what their employee value proposition is, based on 3 simple levers, which is like a happiness index, a performance index, and then the overall company financial health. You could tell that having happier people meant better productivity, which meant, greater earnings. And so from there, 2007, we're already in 2023. I think this has been coming and happening for a long time. I think some industry sectors are slower to the mark. I think macroeconomic scenarios, like we're in the continent of Africa, so maybe we got it a little bit later than these first world entities in the Americas and China's. I think it is a trend, like it's trendy, right? But I don't think it's like a pair of shoes. I don't think it's going to go out of fashion. I think we're going to have this in some way, shape, and form forever.
Okay, so we can call it our now, not even the future.
Yeah, it's a now. Yeah. I mean,
this is the now.
The future is now. Go on.
Yeah. Okay. So on threats, what are your thoughts on privacy concerns by employees? Yes, you gather this data. It's an anonymous survey you put out. What do you think? Do you think employees would feel an encroachment on their privacy by putting in AI this data?
No, I don't. I mean,
that concern. What if it comes up?
Well, I'd just refer you back to your employment contract and the standard terms of employment, and you've very likely consented to the information security policy there. So I would say no. Will we have to update policy to suit? Yeah, of course, totally. It's a bit like, social media, and you have these social media crimes, right? But the courts and governance haven't yet written law to prosecute that. So now they're all sitting around going, what do we do? But yeah, refer to policy, refer to your employment contract. You've signed it, you're older than 18, so no modern slavery here, and you've given us consent.
Okay. So what about sensitizing the employees? You said it in the beginning. You are in the tech space, and it's quite, everybody already knows what's happening. And back to these privacy concerns, is there a sensitization that can be done by HR professionals to help the employees understand that, okay, yes, this thing is not here to, what's the word now? It's not here to take your job. It's not here to, exactly, or spy on you, exactly. What sort of sensitization can HR professionals?
It's like educating a market in order to then roll out the product. It's the same sort of thing. I think it has to be, okay, it can't be top down, right? You can't just say, hey, you will do the survey or else you can get out of here, because that's not going to work. That really won't work. That'll have the opposite effect. Best scenario is if it comes from the bottom up, where they go, hey, we're not really enjoying this experience. Please, can we have something more? We'd like to give you feedback, but we're in fear of losing our jobs, because you'll know exactly where the feedback's coming from. The sides is good as well, managing your peer group. But so I think if you've got like this omni buy-in, it works best. Desensitizing is really difficult, even still today. And we're a technology company. We do have folks that feel they need to answer the surveys positively because they don't want their score to go down. And even now, today, like more than a year on in, I'm saying, no, it doesn't matter if the scores go down. Like the whole point here is for us to understand, okay, it's gone down. What made it go down? Let's like fix it. Or, oh, it's up. Okay, so then how do we double down on that and get even better? And so I think because even with us, it was a relatively new concept. And I remember when I first presented it at a town hall, people were confused. They're like, what is this? I think it's important to educate and advocate, and then also have some form of ambassadors around this, and typically speaking, you'd want it to be your line managers, but it's much better if people understand that this is a a thing that's been brought into the organization's population in order to do its best at creating an environment, one in which we can all succeed. I think then if that's understood and it's properly delivered, the communication is properly delivered, you'll see that it'll allow for the alleviation of mismanaged expectations. There won't be any unwanted pressure. There'll be no forms of discrimination. And actually it's objective. And this is the thing that we're trying to get through to everybody is it's objective. We're all in this together. An organization is a bunch of people brought together with one common goal. So that's essentially what we're trying to do.
Thank you for that response. We have a number of questions here. First one I'll take, is there any current legislation governing AI that may impact on implementation with HR?
It's a really good question. And this is why, I mean, if I'm gonna be completely honest here, like I don't know, but what I can tell you is that it's better to partner with a professional that does these things. And by that, I mean, we use Winning Temp, right? That's the company we use. It's a Swedish-based engineering company that specializes in this. And then within your contractual obligation and your terms, they will have been audited and regulated to a whole bunch of information security things, whether it be GDPR or POP-B, and so that way, should any of this information or any risk be bestowed upon the employee, your company's safeguarded. It has nothing to do with us. It'll fall on them. I think I'm answering the question there, but essentially it's all in that fine print. And that is why I would partner with somebody that's well known for this rather than trying to do it yourself at first. You know what I mean? I would definitely get somebody who's got a product that you can just integrate with all the correct regulations being abided by.
Okay, so I would like to add to that answer. Just like you said, there's no generic legislation or body that's putting something to govern the use of AI by HR professionals. But some professional bodies like Society of Human Resources Management are putting some ethical guidelines to help HR professionals maintain fairness, equity in using AI, and also provide human oversight, so as to remove biases and subjectiveness. So that's that. Alexandra, I hope that answered the question. Any key processes that will be a game changer? So I want to believe maybe any key processes introduced by AI, sorry, that will be a game changer for HR professionals.
I think no, I think as HR professionals, we've always understood that we cannot manage the manager's employees. They need to do it, but we can provide consultation in like an HRBP or collaborative context for best practice. And the game changer, I guess, at this moment in time using AI is you've received this information objectively. And not only did you get this information, the AI spun up what you should do next. And so it takes away a lot of the guesswork on how to approach those scenarios. And so is it a complete game changer? Not from my perspective, but it definitely optimizes and demystifies that engagement and that interaction. I mean, I could talk to you for days about interactions and performance management and what a one-on-one really is versus what a salary discussion really is. But for some reason, everybody wants to clump it all into one meeting in 30 minutes, and it doesn't really work that way. So this allows you to separate each piece and focus on that objective feedback.
Okay, another question. Where does AI come in with regards to recruitment?
Yeah, it's all over the place. There's a couple of companies I know of in South Africa and one in the UK that they have AI within their database, right? So what would happen is you would already consent to them using your data. And then they'll use this bot, which is kind of text mining, if you like, and she or he would go around your database searching without you having to Boolean search. You'd upload a role description. It would then scrape that information or read it, and then it would go into your database and try and best match it, right? That's one way. The other way, which is a little gray in what you can and can't do here, is you can there's these bots which can go out to the open market and basically discern who's doing what and where at which company. And if you think I'm wrong, just look at LinkedIn, right? And ultimately, it can pull that information. The main development I've seen within this is more the filtering process. So once you apply for an opportunity, let's say, this bot can decide whether you're suitable or not, dependent on the parameters and the thresholds that have been built into it. And so these applicant tracking systems like Greenhouse, they're really good at being able to find the match, and then they tend to retain your information for a period of time, right? And so ultimately, it can match to other areas of the organization, not necessarily just the role you've applied for.
Yeah, you're correct. Automating some processes, some processes of the recruitment process. AI would definitely help in that stead. So
and,
we have
also you can like, even you don't even need a specific AI HR type bot like this narrow AI. You just go use ChatGPT, right? You pop in there, what does a software engineer do? Boom, job spec. And there you go. So that helps in the recruitment process too.
Thank you for that. Another question, what infrastructure do you need in your office premises for this? That is for HR to run. That's it.
Yeah, so a typical infrastructure, we use cloud-based solutions like AWS and Cloudflare. We use Duo for double authentication, and we use Okta for single sign-on. And we have dashboards there which allow you to move in and out of it. So I would say a strong internet connection. And because the agreement we have with our provider means that essentially they retain the information, the obligation or the risk factors are on them, as I earlier disclosed. If something happens, they're in the court, not us, right? But with that being said, we're very strong on information security. We have been, because of the nature of our clients and our clients' clients. And I would say cloud-based solution, strong internet connection, a laptop, right? And some other control around the information.
Okay, I hope that answers your question, Osatu. Another question. There are a lot of HR software now. So what makes AI different?
I think it's just going to be an add-on. I think it's going to be an add-on. I'm still waiting to find this solution, and it's coming, I'm sure. I'm sure it's coming, right? Which touches everything from that attraction all the way through to the separation, but it includes things like performance management. It includes things like ENPS tracking and these temperature checks, includes things like employee assistance programs, right? Where you can log on there, includes things like learnership and development. At some point in time, you're going to have this huge system, right? All cloud-based, which will have your ATS through to your regular management information system, through to your personal professional development, your retention tools like your health, EAP, wellness, that sort of stuff, your payroll, and your separation. I mean, I can see a risk there as well, because if that goes down, goodbye operations, the whole thing's gone. But I'm still waiting to see this, and where I've found myself questioning the new adoption of technology is what appetite do we have for yet another application, right? Because you've got this one for this, and then that one for this, and then this one for this. So at some point, it'll all be one, I think.
An holistic app that just features everything. I'll be waiting with you.
Yeah. And easy to use. You just talk to, just go, hey, do that for me,
Exactly.
please. You know, just does it.
Okay. Okay, someone is asking, what's the future of HR with AI?
Yeah, I think we'll end up being engineers.
We'll end up with engineers. Oh, that's.
I think we'll end up being software engineers. So here's the thing. I think you know, I really wish like I could just jump into these people, these brilliant people's minds, like, you know, like your Elon Musks, who seem to be able to make decisions through the prism of like future, and I just can't. So understanding that limitation, I would say my best possible prediction would be a higher technical and analytical competence. So you're going to find really creatively analytical people in HR managing the machines, basically. That's what we're going to be doing.
True. You're correct. Analytics is the way now. I know we did a webinar one time on that, and it's all tied in together. Another question, can AI help measure HR KPIs to generate an HR scorecard vis-a-vis the targets, current rates, and the metrics? Should I read that again?
Yeah.
Oh, you got it?
No,
Okay.
read it again.
Okay. Can AI help measure HR KPIs to generate an HR scorecard vis-a-vis the targets, current rates, and the metrics?
Yes, I think that would be more like maybe not like a dictionary definition of artificial intelligence, but more like a machine learning or sort of a narrow AI, a machine that can specifically track that thing for you. We already see it now. We use a thing called Bamboo HR, and in there you can set goals. And but although there is a bit of manual intervention, you have to do it yourself, right? Where you can set these goals, and then they're all there for you, and it sends you little reminders as to when you need to do this thing. There's little triggers which then get automated, and throughout the whole year, these goals, almost like a bottle or a glass, will fill up to the point where you've completed them. And I believe, yes, there's probably a machine that can do that bit for you. But how does the machine know you've done it unless you tell it? You see, that's the limitation with this AI, the narrow AI anyway. You have to give it the information for it to then run its learning.
Great. Now, and this is a request from someone. Is there any platform where we can learn more about AI for HR? Is there any way you can suggest to read up more on it and understand what this AI is all about?
Yes, I would, if it's HR specific AI you're looking for, then I would definitely have a look at, and I sound like I'm a Winning Temp fanboy. It's not, it's just the tool we use. Go there, they've got a blog, and in there it's their actual engineers that are writing these blogs. And then you've got some soft aside from their HR professionals, as well as the educational element to it. So remember, you get these questions from a whole bunch of psychologists, right? And it's all researched and it's all documented and evidenced as true. And you can read up about it, what it does. Look, it is geared in a bit of a salesy way to actively promote Winning Temp, but if you look at the messages within that, you'll understand a greater deal as to what the whole point of it is and why people are doing it. I mean, there's a lot of companies that are utilizing AI in very many forms. Like I know some technical business analysts that have managed to create automation through machine learning to perform their function for them. You know what I mean? Which makes you question, okay, so what are you doing every day? But basically they run these scripts and it pulls from this and puts it in there and slots it in there, and it's all got parameters and thresholds. Go to Winning Temp, go to 𝐒𝐭𝐚𝐲, go to Office Vibe, go into Google, just do it, and that'll come up for you. I just want to touch on something real quick. So we mentioned what is the future of HR, and we decided, well, the future's now, right? So just consider where HR was then versus what it is now. So back in the day, I'm not going to give my age away, but more than 12 years ago, you would have basically personnel officers, administrators, and they would do contracts, and then they would do payroll. And they were very nice, lovely people, and you chatted with them. And then they would maybe do some disciplinary action, but they would follow the rules, right? HR now is more about having management consultants, data analysts, data scientists. You've got marketing, PR professionals in there. Like, you've got to make your shop window look good, right? It's a company that people need to come and work at. You've got in some areas industrial psychologists. You've got a whole range more skill sets which have been embedded into this modern day HR, and you still have the HR admin person, but for the paperwork, right? That's now become a machine, basically.
Okay, thanks for that insight. And now we're wrapping up. If you have any other questions for Lee, now is the time to, okay, there's a question in the chat. What should we expect as the future battle between AI and humans?
I don't know. You know, I can't speak on behalf of 𝐭𝐻𝐧𝐶 for that. I can give you my personal thing. Have you seen this thing that Elon Musk has got, this Neuralink, right? Where he's literally like got internet in your head. I think that's the first start. And then there's going to be these mechanical limbs. And then, you know, before you know it, you'll be transferring your conscience. I don't know how that's going to happen because I'm a man of faith, but there you go. So I think where your imagination goes is probably the future of AI versus humans.
Great. Where our imagination goes. That's great. Someone's hand is up. One last question. Any more questions? And then wrap up. Okay, from me, any final words for HR leaders to embrace AI, sorry?
I think from my perspective and my personal experience of it, it's really allowed us to find the black and white in this world of gray, right? So you've got three intelligences. You've got the intelligence quotient, the emotional quotient, EQ, and then social quotient. And we have some of the hardest jobs because people are so dynamic and diverse and can be different from one day to the next. And I think utilizing this sort of tool as exactly that, a tool provides you an objective black and white view of evidence. And with evidence, you can win any argument through a conversation. And that's the point. That's really why we now have a voice at the bigger table, is because we've got to a point where we can provide some insights that for the longest time was speculation. You know, you want to implement a process? We used to do this. I think that'll work because I've read an article on it. Whereas this information that you've received and the predictions garnered would say, don't do that process. They don't want it. Or do this process. They do want it. And it's opened my mind up to a number of things. Last thing, no longer do we see team building here as a result of this information received as a day out in an escape room game and then some lunch. They've given it to us in a very different way. Our team want to go to team buildings, to conferences. They want to go get better knowledge. Travel's become a big thing. They want to travel a bit. You know what I mean? So this is like the evolving employee experience. Yeah, that's probably the only insight I can give you in my experience using these tools.
Great. No, think, back it up with data.
Yes.
Exactly. So we have one question from Yinka. I've been wondering if AI will actually replace 90% of HR roles, thereby leading to extinction of HR.
I don't think we would allow that to happen. Do you? Well, yeah. I wouldn't. I'd be like, no, hang on a minute. I've got to feed my kids, man. No, I think I think there's going to be people that do think that. I would imagine there's going to be, you know. But I think from my perspective, if you're asking me, I would say no, not in my lifetime. I don't want to live in that world either, where every decision is being made by a machine. Like, we're in human resources. You can't spell hero without HR, right? So I think it's important that the human touch remains.
Definitely. So HR professionals, we're not going anywhere. Don't be scared. AI is not taking our job. It's just here to enhance our functions. Great. Thank you so much, Lee. I see someone asking if we can get the slides in the chat. So Lee, will you be able to share that slide with us?
Can I share you a version of it?
Sure, that's fine.
Thank you.
That's fine. Be cool. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you. I'm sure everybody had an insightful session. Everybody, thank you. We thank you so much for joining us. You will be getting the recording. Once we upload it on our YouTube channel, you will be able to view the recording. We'll also share the recording with you, Lee, just in case you want to. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you. We are going into the holidays. Do enjoy your holiday and take care. Bye.
Bye.